All right. Hey, everyone. Sorry for the couple minutes delay. It's just holiday season right now and it's very, very busy, but super excited for this. Seeing some people slowly drop in. Where are people calling in from today? Anyone doing anything fun for the holidays? Just drop it real quick in the chat. Let me see. London, Toronto, Tampa. We're going worldwide here, Navi.
I love that.
Serbia, Baltimore, Utah. I love Utah. I actually like Utah holds a special place in my heart because all the best salespeople are from Utah. And I got trained in door to door sales by some of the Utah sales legends in pest control.
Oh my
So
God, I got
if you
trained
know
in
any good,
sales from Ogden, Utah.
really?
Yeah, I'm not even kidding. I was trained in sales in Ogden, Utah at a company called Market Star way long ago. But yeah,
Wow. Well, that's why we both sell a ton.
that's so true.
Exactly. Mormons, door knocking pros. Oh, 100%. Yeah, especially if like they don't want to go sell their own faith, they can sell pest control or something as a proxy. So just amazing at sales. Anyways, let's dive into some creator community stuff while everyone's pouring in. I know this was kind of a we had another webinar itch. We wanted to get it moving before the holidays. We'll definitely be able to send out the recording and deck to anyone else who needs it. And I'll also upload it to our podcast, Zero Sum Game, as well. I think, Navi, you own like maybe 1/5 of the real estate on there at this point.
Yeah.
Given we've done like two episodes, episode and webinar, and that'll be two webinars in an episode.
There you
So
go.
it's
Perfect.
basically your freaking podcast too.
There you go.
um, but but yeah, let's sort of jump in here. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and we're gonna go over some slides for everyone. And then for anyone who is tuning in, just drop your questions in the chat. We can keep this like super casual. I know everyone's really busy for the holidays, so I want to make sure if you do have questions right now, those can get answered. So cool. Let me just refresh this real quick. Oh, sorry. There's multiple decks. Give me one sec. That is the wrong deck.
That's okay. That happens. You should see the amount of tabs I
Yeah.
just had to close out of. So I
I
feel
did
your
I
pain.
didn't I'm sure yours is even more than mine given you have so many clients you're managing. So it's like what, six tabs per client, right?
Six tabs. Yeah, exactly. One of my strategists the other day was like, "Oh my God, all the profiles we have to keep for clients has been slowing down my MacBook." I'm like, "Well, yeah,
Yeah, buy some
yeah,
extra storage, clear those
yeah.
cookies.
That's what we're gonna have to do. I have to buy more powerful machines, I guess."
Yes, 100%. Okay, so I'm gonna hand it over to you at the beginning. I think, just want to call out for everyone here. Quick background, Navi. Maybe you can just introduce yourself real quick. What you guys do, why people should even listen to you about community management in the first place.
Yeah, definitely. So, hi for everyone who doesn't know me. My name is Navi. I'm the CEO of Sova, which is a TikTok shop partner agency. Um, we are a newer TSP, but my background is all brand side, all influencer and relationship management and community building. And so, prior to being in the TikTok shop space about 2 years ago, I was running a 10,000 person community for Wish.com, which was probably one of the largest micro influencer communities in the space. And I've been in this space for 15 years now, so affiliate and influencer marketing. So, when those two things collided at TikTok shop, it was just the right fit for me to move over here.
Yeah, and for those of you who aren't familiar with me, my name is Sohan. I'm the head of go-to-market at Reacher. We're an end-to-end SaaS solution or software solution that helps you find creators, nurture those relationships, gamify, and then integrate into your Discord to amplify your community management. Looking at building things like agentic solutions for creative strategy and driving extra revenue on GMV Max with some other solutions we're cooking up in-house. And Reacher has enabled over 500 million in TikTok shop revenue driven on the platform in just under 2 years. So we see a lot of the backend data. Um, we see a lot of the backend data on what works, what doesn't work. And Navi here is really talking to the creators on the ground. And we've done webinars like this, and the last one had really positive results. I know a lot of people were asking me for the recordings, Navi. I don't know if you saw those siloed conversations, but they're
Yeah.
really great work. And now we want to just go into a part two here, where once you actually have your community, how do you keep people engaged? How do you actually drive results, build momentum, and build repeatable systems so that your community can generate money for your agency or for your brand? So I'm going to kick it off over to Navi here, and she's going to dive into Sova's approach and high level what they do. And then for the back half of the presentation, I'm just going to dive into some components of the systems that I've seen in communities and things to track so you guys can have some strategies you can take home today and make sure your community is healthy.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I want to preface this by saying anytime I bring on a brand new client that's like really excited about community, I always tell them to wait, just like hold on, because hygiene matters so much. And I'm glad we're talking about this today, because if you jump into community and you don't have a plan in place, you really just lose that community really quickly. And I'm glad we're going to be talking about this. So how we approach hygiene, we build systems before we push the volumes. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Like we build out a system, a content calendar. We build out touch points for creators prior to even bringing creators in. So we'll be recruiting creators and mentioning the community, but won't invite them in until I feel 100% ready that we're ready for them. We focus exclusively on TikTok Shop. There isn't anything else that we talk about in these communities. We talk about GMV, but in a more decision-based way, not just to make noise and like tell the creators just to push, push, push for more GMV. We really help them get to that higher GMV. And then hygiene is positioned as a growth strategy. I tell this to all of my clients, especially larger ones that want to get into community building right away. I'm like, it really, if we don't have the hygiene ready to go, if we don't have the content schedule ready to go, we're not going to build a great community. And then creators are treated as long-term partners. You can't just forget them and hope that they'll engage when you're ready to engage in the community. It doesn't work that way.
Just curious, like what's different about this approach than maybe some of the other agencies and things you're seeing when it comes to community management with other partners?
Yeah, I mean, you can talk about this in general across Discord's the number one, right? Base that everyone uses for community. I'm in probably like 30 Discords, not just TikTok shop based. I do a lot of video game based too. But the ones I leave are the ones where I see no engagement. I see nobody talking to each other. I see no just natural community, organic conversations happening either. And a lot of that leads to the fact, and then I'm never checking them. So I have accounts that, or I'm in a couple that are now active, and I never go into those discords because I never got into them from the beginning. And so like from day one you have to be engaged, and I think that's what a lot of people just think and assume, oh, we just invite people in and they'll organically talk to each other. But that's not the case. We as brands and agencies need to talk to the creators first and establish that cadence of communication and conversation and put thought starters in there. And so it's a lot of work to do that. And I think people think that's organically going to happen, and it's not. It really is more of a channel where you need strategy and content. I have 90-day content plans typically. Webinars will go live with, looms will put in there. You know what I mean? Like consistently just creating and consuming content in that community.
Exactly. Honestly, you should be thinking about how much content you put out because you want your affiliate to put out 10 times as much.
A
Like at
hundred
least try to match
percent,
them 110.
100%.
And I think everyone always comes to me and probably to you too, and they're like, oh, like putting together a Discord is so much work, but then like, why do I even need to be in Discord? Because everyone is in 30 Discords. And I'm just like, okay, so given that that's your environment, how do you actually make yours stand out? Like let's take a more like positive, opportunistic way of looking at this where it's like, why do people not want to be in 30 Discords at once? Is it because there's a bad first impression for the reason Navi mentioned above? Like let's just actually critically think about this. So just wanted to call that out, and that was one of the inspirations behind us coming and creating this presentation together here, because we're always hearing that like, I'm in too
Yeah.
many Discords, or Discord's too complicated. It's just like break it down into its components and just try to like build it.
And I always say start simple with Discord. Discord's an open space. You can create whatever you want in it, but start simple and then build as you start to see a need. You need a product
100%.
you need a product roadmap for Discord as well, Sohan. Like it's like
Oh yeah.
essentially that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
We have one. We're integrating with Discord APIs. I know we haven't necessarily explored that together, but we
Yeah.
we'll probably
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
talk about that too more offline.
Yep. And so why does this matter? It really does matter because I am not a proponent of fast GMV. I always say even to clients, sustainable GMV. So you want to do sustainable GMV so that you're not churning creators. Because what we talked about in the last webinar that's really important is there's tiers of creators. And if you're only talking about fast GMV, you're losing certain tiers of creators because they're not at that point yet. And so there's a way that you need to engage kind of every level of creator that's in there. Creators disengage when expectations are unclear, 110%. If you're not explaining to them, if you're not offering them creative briefs in multiple formats, they'll disengage and then not joined. Burn creators talk to other creators 100%. They'll create a TikTok about how bad your community was 100%. I had this happen at Wish one time where this happened. Teams get stuck reacting instead of building. We should be the community builders, not just reacting to people being angry or upset or they feel left out. And then long-term scale breaks without hygiene. And that's 100% true. So even if today you bring in 10,000 creators, let's say you have 10,000 creators, dump them in Discord. You don't have community hygiene. After about 90 days, you're going to lose most of those creators. They're going to be inactive. They'll be in the community, but they'll be inactive members of the community. And there's no value in that.
I got nothing to add here. Let's go to the next portion.
Yeah. So what is creator community hygiene? It really is what I've been mentioning. There needs to be a system behind how creators experience the brand. There needs to be clear standards for outreach, sampling, commissions. You need to have clean content expectations tied to performance, infrastructures that enable sustainable growth, and then predictable communication and timelines. So even like when someone joins, like even the joining message, I think is so important about setting up somebody in a Discord. It could be their first time or it could be their 30th. You want to make sure that anybody that comes in with whatever skill level they have understands how to use and how to utilize your Discord to the maximum effect that they can get. Because really these creators are joining Discord for what? To grow not only their most likely their types of videos they're creating, but the GMV that they're making. And the only way they can do that is if they can actually utilize all the tools you've put into this Discord.
So I want to dive a bit more into that. So you're talking about doing essentially proper onboarding for these creators, right? Like the first
Correct.
impression, like once they join your Discord, how can they hit as software in the software world we call like time to value, right?
Yep.
Like what's that aha moment where they experience that magic in the Discord where now they actually are pinning this Discord and maybe they want to check this Discord more often than others, right? What from conversations with other agencies and brands, like where do you see people getting like the whole process wrong in onboarding?
I think people are just adding creators like whenever they're ready. Like, oh, we saw this creator, let's just add them. We don't do it that way at Sova. We actually have like, kind of like when you're joining, when you used to, like, I remember when I got my first job at YouTube, I was a part of a cohort joining. So like we will pile them together. We have newsletters in the meantime that we'll send out to creators that haven't 100% been approved for the Discord community. And then we'll onboard a group of Discord members at the same time. So when we're doing the onboarding, it's happening kind of on a larger scale than it is just one off. I think what happens is a lot of agencies are just like, oh, you're great for the community, just throw them in the community. And then there's no onboarding happening. But when we put a whole cohort of creators into an onboarding community and we actually welcome them by having either a Loom sent to them and then also saying, oh, you're this cohort. So like, what month is it? Oh my God, December. You're December 2025's cohort, right? That also establishes community amongst each other as well, because now they're like part of the same group. It's all just mental, but building it that way, that's how they do it in colleges. That's how they do it at big companies. That's how we should be doing it here as well. It's a system that works.
I love that. And like, I think there's so many parallels with agency services, with software, with brands, right? A bad onboarding process can be one of the largest root causes
Correct.
for like decreased retention long term. So if
Yes.
you can fix your onboarding, you can fix your creator community retention upstream. And like that's really where if you're an operator, a business owner, or anyone looking at problems with your TikTok shop, you should be thinking about how you can fix problems upstream to increase the efficiency of all your team members downstream, right? And so onboarding, even in the software world, right? If we can get our onboarding 100% right and everyone knows exactly where everything is in the product, how to take action, like that creates a positive customer experience and people are so much more sticky. And then the second thing, community by cohort. I've never even thought about that. Like I love that analogy
Yeah.
because from a data perspective and from a tracking perspective as well, you can also track churn by cohort, right?
Correct.
If you're bringing in different affiliates with different offers or during different seasons throughout the year, if you're able to attribute some sort of different systems you deployed for that cohort specifically, how does that affect your holistic community engagement and retention strategy, right? So,
Yep. You can also test
and
by
then,
niche that way, Sohan. You can test by
yeah.
niche that way. You can test by follower count that way. You can test by engagement rates that way. Like your cohorts could literally have a tie amongst them on why you put them together in a cohort.
More content coming soon on
There you go.
cohort affiliate community management.
Yeah. So why does TikTok Shop raise the stakes? I've been doing community building for, like I said, about 15 years. I used to do it in real life prior to COVID, and then we had to shift over to larger Discord communities. And so TikTok Shop is really relationship driven, and I think we're starting to see this in like most of the agencies, the way that we're starting to work, it's not campaign driven anymore. It really is relationship driven. It really is how many creators do you have on your roster that are actively posting for you. And in order for them to actively consistently post for you, you need to have relationships built with them. Without that, it's just the ecosystem is just not going to work. And then creators do compare commissions and brand behavior. You know, which brands are paying more attention to them, which ones are putting more into the relationship. Commissions are one thing, but if brands show that they want to grow with the creator is also just trying to make a living at the end of the day. So where they see more support is where where they will move to. And then trust spreads or breaks at network speed. And so I've seen this when I used to go to events when I was at Wish. I used to have creators come up to me, "Oh my God, we're part of your community. We love it." And then they talk to each other. They have their own forums and Reddits and all that. And like, you know, they're talking about that consistently. And so you need to make sure that we're also working with creators in a very thoughtful way. And then one messy experience can impact future recruitment. Like I said, we had a video made one time on TikTok about this. And then consistency matters more than one viral moment. I mentioned this a few slides ago as well. Sustainability, consistency, that's really what we should be going for. Consistent results with creators, not just one-time viral moments.
Yeah, and I think one thing that people don't realize here, right, is there's a lot of tools like Reacher in the space where you can go and message hundreds of thousands of affiliates, right? But really, in any business, word of mouth marketing is like one of the strongest ones, right? And so
Yeah.
when Navi is talking about meeting these creators at events, they're talking to each other. That's another creator acquisition lever for your community, for your brands. If creators have positive sentiment and you're able to create strong creator experiences upstream and creators go tell other creators about that, those creators that they then tell, their retention and engagement is going to be tied to the original community member. So they're less likely to churn. They're more likely to come. You're not spending any money trying to acquire those affiliates on software, on other offers, on retainers, or anything like that. So it creates a very positive flywheel for affiliate acquisition if you're able to nurture strong creator experiences within your Discord where they're talking to other creators about it.
That's right.
Cool.
So outreach and sampling hygiene. So outreach should clearly explain why the creator was chosen. And actually, I go one step further and then explain the tier system and which tier they basically land in and what they need to do to move forward. Performance context should be honest and realistic. So we never actually start off with GMV conversations. We start off with putting out more content conversations. That's typically, we do have leaderboards for GMV. Those are the end all kind of be all leaderboards. Everyone wants to win the $1,000 prize for like, you know, getting as much GMV as possible. But really we start with we start with number of content, because every single creator I've met, I go to all these large kind of creator events. Every creator I've met is posting about the same brand 20 to 30 times. And that's like the sweet spot in a month where they're making $70,000 to $200,000 a month in commission. Like they're posting about one brand 20, 30 times minimum. And so really that's where we start from. Sampling should always be opt-in. And that's something that we've always done. Creators should know if content is expected or optional. It's almost always expected. And we make sure that we know that. So like the actual posting score is a really, really big metric for us and for the creators that we invite to our space. We don't want to send a sample and not get video out unless they maybe hated the product or the product came damaged or something. We can talk about it. But if the product is working the way that it should, there's no reason why a creator can't create content. It's good for them too. That's why I try to tell creators all the time. I'm like, yeah, okay, you're only posting 7 products out of 10 that you got, right? Your score's a 70%, right? You're only posting 7 out of 10. But why not post the other 3? Why not post multiple of the other 3? You never know what's going to hit. And then last, usage rights should be clear before product is sent. We actually, every time we send out a invitation, we also mention usage rights in that invitation, so that it's just very clear, because more and more brands are now starting to ask for usage rights right off the bat, even in our sales conversations. And so I make sure creators are also aware of that.
So one thing you said was that you're looking at the posting score and you're tracking that. Could you dive a bit more into that point on like what you're looking like? What is that specifically, and how are you tracking that?
I mean, TikTok tracks it for you, whether that's accurate or not. I have thoughts around that too. But really, once they get into our community, we track how many samples we've sent, how many pieces of content we've got out of it, right? And when I have conversations with creators, I will let them know that we typically will, like, especially if they want, let's say, like, there's a skincare cream that they really, really like that we sampled out to them, but they only posted one video. We're not going to send them another $120 skincare cream as a refill unless we start to see more content. And so we'll track that and just make sure that they're actually posting, and then posting, not just showing that they posted a live. A lot of creators do that these days. They'll say they went live for like 20 minutes and you don't know if they mentioned your product or not. So really it has to be tangible results. And the ones that we continue working with are the ones, like I said, that are posting more.
Got it. So it's essentially like volume over product, whether it's volume of short videos, lives, and then product being
Correct.
the
Yeah.
variable cost. Okay, makes sense.
We did have a question, so I'll just get to that really quick since it's about
Yeah,
usage rights. So the question
let's
is
do
it possible to talk more about usage rights? What's the win-win agreement between the brand and the creator? Okay, I'm gonna be honest here. I just send out a blanket statement saying if you if you're accepting the sample usage rights, we're gonna, usage rights means that we're gonna take it and use it. We can use it across the brand. But then I also write at the bottom, if you have another agreement, please reach out. And so typically 80% of the creators, they're okay with you having usage rights. 20% will then reach out and negotiate usage rights with you. So there isn't a way to do it in a win-win between brand and the creator. I think that there's a way to leverage both, where you do kind of a blanket statement. It's actually pretty high up in the sampling request that we send them, but it also states that we're willing to negotiate. I don't want to take away usage rights from, or like the money that some creators make from that. But to be honest, if it's really, really high, then I'm just like, dude, drop it. It's fine. We won't.
Yeah,
So
that's a good point. I
yeah.
like that you create an opportunity for creators to send over their agreements. I think a lot of times, like even I talked to a creator on the podcast the other day, and she was saying that people are offering her like $200 for a piece of creative. They're gonna pump like hundreds of thousands of dollars behind on meta ads that has been validated on TikTok Shop. And she's like, why would I ever do this? Like, why would I sign $200 for something
Yes.
where I'm going to be helping someone generate millions? Like, that doesn't seem like a fair deal, considering I did the creative. You guys didn't give me that much creative direction, and I validated it for you on TikTok Shop, so you know it's a higher chance of winning creative, right? So I think I like that sort of room for negotiation. And I think that's better for the spirit of a good partnership long term.
We also teach our creators about that. So as they get bigger, I think when they're smaller, usage rights are a little bit harder to argue a payment for. But when creators start to become bigger, or when they start to drive more GMV, is when we also start to educate them on the right way to do that. I think some creators do take advantage of that, just like some brands take advantage, right? And so you want to do it in a thoughtful way where it makes sense for you and it makes sense for the brand. And there's ways to do that. So
100%. All right.
All right. Commissions and incentive hygiene. Yeah, this is a really big one. So commissions should always be clearly documented and easy to find. Yeah, it's in the back end of your TikTok shop when you're sending out an invite, but it should be really clear in your Discord community as well what the commission is for that exact opportunity. And then if you're tiering commission, that should also be very clear. When you tier commission, when the levers are pulled, and how you tier that commission, or when you actually do for a creator, that should be clearly outlined as well. You should avoid changing rates without prior communication 100%. This is one of the biggest ways to lose creators when they expect to earn a certain amount and then they don't. Payout timing should be consistent and predictable. This is typically taken care of by TikTok Shop, but sometimes you're doing flat fee or extra incentives. Like we did a $1,000 giveaway. Like you want to make sure you actually pay your creator the $1,000 that you promised them you would on a timely basis. And then incentives should reward performance, not favoritism. And then stability builds creator loyalty over time. All good things.
Agreed with all the points there. All good things.
So creators perform better when they retain their voice. This is something I've learned the past 15 years being in influencer marketing. I've worked with companies that have wanted to be very prescriptive and write out a whole script. I still have brands that tell me that to this day. They're like, we want to tell them exactly what they need to say. And I always argue, and it's, my husband is a TikTok Shop. Well, he's more of a TikTok guy and he does some TikTok Shop on the side. His audience, he speaks in a different language. His audience really responds to the way that he talks and the way that he actually puts forward products. And so if we take that away from him and we give him a script in English and it's like very prescriptive, like it's telling him exactly what to say, his audience is not going to resonate with that video at all. And so you lose that, and then he loses authenticity. Like, creators lose authenticity. And we're realizing on TikTok Shop that authenticity really matters for creators. Is actually what's pushing GMV for a lot of these micro creators is they look and they talk just like you and I. And so, we trust them and we buy from them. And so you want to make sure that we're not doing that. So brief should guide, not script. We measure content on GMV and conversion, not aesthetics. I have to tell brands this every day, multiple times a day. Like if someone asks me what's the number one thing I have to continue saying to brands, it's always two things, but one of them is always I don't care what the content looks like. I just care about the conversions on it. Okay. We limit revisions to protect creator trust. The only time we ever ask for a revision is if they're against brand guidelines or if it's something that we legally, the brand just cannot say. We will ask for revisions. Otherwise, we don't. And creative freedom often leads to better results. Not often, all the time leads to better results typically.
Yeah, agree with everything there. Totally makes sense. I still think people do miss it and will miss it even after you saying this.
Yep. 100%.
All right.
All right. And then internal team hygiene is also really important on how you're actually running your community internally. So creators should never receive conflicting messages. There should be one owner per creator relationship. And I always get asked, how many people can one person manage? It really is up to each of your coordinators that you have in the space on how many relationships they can actively manage. But you want to make sure you're right sizing that. You don't want to overwhelm somebody either. This is relationship building. It seems easy because like you're literally just typing messages to each other, but they have to get to know that person. The person has to get to know them. So you need to give them the space to do that. You want to align internally before you message anything externally. This is like true for everything, not just community. And we document SOPs before we scale volume. And also SOPs are never set in stone. They're always flexible. So change them based on your needs and anything that you're noticing that's new. And then internal clarity creates external confidence. I should put that on a t-shirt.
There's a couple things I wanted. Yeah, I think that's like wellness content as well.
There you go. Yep.
If you're clear on your own voice, you'll show up more confident in the world. But I think one thing I'd love to drill down on is the one owner per creator relationship. I'm curious, like in the software world, in other agency worlds, usually this depends on like scope. Like let's say you're an agency account manager. Maybe you can manage up to like 8 to 10 accounts. Maybe if you're a software CSM, you can manage up to like 50 accounts, depending on how high of a tier those accounts are in your customer segmentation. Is there a general rule of thumb that people should be thinking about when creating some sort of like ownership matrix with their coordinators to their creators largely in a Discord? Let's say, to keep things a little more specific, let's say you have something like 1,000 creators in your Discord. Is this like feasible or do you kind of do it by group instead?
So that's why I talk about like a capacity of a person. When I was at Wish, we were a team of 3. We managed 10,000 creators in a really great way. I will say like that was probably one of the most engaged creator communities I ever had at the time. And it was three of us managing it. But then when I moved into TikTok shop space, because we have a lot more creators that are new to the space, they just require a lot more hand holding. So now my rule of thumb is it's about 250 per relationships per coordinator. And some of my coordinators can do 500. So I slowly grow them. First, they manage the 250. When they're comfortable with the 250, then they go to the 500. I think what people always freak out about is like, oh my God, that's a lot of relationships. But they're typically not talking to everybody every day. They're typically just responsible for making sure they're posting the content, making sure they're sending them messages, making sure they're engaged in the community, things like that.
So it sounds like on one end, from the community side, one of the constraints is how experienced is the affiliate, right?
Yes,
There's a relationship between if the affiliate is more successful, then it takes less effort internally to manage them. But
correct.
then there's a relationship between how experienced is the coordinator,
Yeah,
and then the more experienced the coordinator, the higher capacity. So if I'm
correct.
understanding you correctly, it's a dual-sided relationship, and the constraint on both ends is just how experienced someone is at managing communities, how experienced they are at ingesting information.
Yep.
I guess what are you kind of seeing in the space right now? Like I think a lot of people are trying to find these less experienced creators and get them into their community and masses, and some people are trying to focus on the more experienced creators in communities. If people are looking at getting a community that, let's say, is mainly underexperienced, right, and under leveraged creators, does that 250 to 500 creator relationships, is that still the rule of thumb, or would you kind of go a little bit more down because those relationships take more time to manage?
250, I think, is the minimum that one coordinator should manage. And I just want to point out my coordinators are not only doing community, they're also doing some of the outreach as well. They're managing like
Mm-hmm.
5 client accounts as well. So, and they're still able to kind of manage a 250 person community. That's where the hygiene matters, right? You kind of already have like on the SOPs are already kind of set up. They're not having to second guess how to manage the community. They already have everything set up in their space. So they already kind of know what they need to be doing. 250 is the, unless you really, really want to build the, like you could probably go down to 100, but then you can't scale as quickly. And so this becomes an issue. I went through all of this as I was building these out, where it was like, oh, do I give them less? But then they can't scale. And then as coordinators start to show just a more aptitude, I have one coordinator who only does community and she manages 750 herself. And that's because she's shown the aptitude to
Wow.
do that. And I'd rather have her on the community side than also managing clients. But I really just, it's a philosophy I've always used where I just grow with my employee. So I grow based on where the employee is going to grow in a positive way, and then go that way. So I have some coordinators that aren't in the community because they're better off on the other side. So things like that.
Interesting. I know we have one question in the chat, so we'll get to that. And I'm curious, in your management system, you don't have to give me your exact SOPs, but I feel like people largely are looking at things reactive and moderating based off of like what's going on in their creator communities rather than being proactive. Um, when it comes to managing hundreds of creator relationships at once, do you guys have systems where you're proactively reaching out to each creator or each community coordinators, I guess, like book of creators? That sounds
Yeah,
so
they have
bad
a
to
book of
say,
business.
or
That's what I call
roster.
it. Yep, that's what I call it. Yeah.
So you
So
guys
we
are also doing
do.
sub level of like, okay.
Yeah, no, we do. We do reach out. So that's the beauty about Discord. Just like we're used to doing mass outreach and reacher, right? There's a way to systematize and operationalize larger messages that you're sending out. It's those one-off messages that our coordinators do on their own, but everything else that's kind of larger messages, they'll create an outreach bot that will outreach to every single creator and start a conversation with them. Not all of the creators are going to reach. It's the same as when we do outreach on Reacher. Not every creator is going to reach out back to us and say, oh yeah, we're ready to talk. So really you're only going to, if you reach out to, let's say you're managing 250 and you reach out to all 250 about a new opportunity that you want to talk to them about. And especially like when you're talking to creators that go live, that could be we could do a whole webinar on just live creators, honestly, because it's a whole other nuanced space. But when you're talking to live creators, they're even
Totally.
busier. And so if you're reaching out to 250, let's say live creators, you're probably only going to get 10 of them that respond back with time to talk to you. 10 is a lot easier to manage than 250, but you did that mass outreach message to 250, and then whatever you got is what you got to have conversations with.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Looking at
Yeah.
it in terms of the outputs, if you're able to automate the outreach, makes
Yep.
sense.
Exactly.
Let's answer this question in the chat, and then I might skip ahead to some of the slides I
Yep.
created, and then leave some time
That
for
sounds
Q
good.
and A.
I only have one more slide, so we can just skip ahead of that one.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Brian said, "Are there general SOPs for setup available for purchase?" Navi, are you trying to start another business here?
No, I don't think so. But Brian, if you reach out on LinkedIn, we can definitely have a conversation around community building and the way that I approach SOPs. I do have a large operational background. I was a scrum master and project manager for years. So I think that's where my SOP kind of expertise comes in from and why I'm so gung ho about creating these operational checklists. But reach out on LinkedIn and we can chat.
Yeah, and Brian, we also have a mock Discord I created that's completely open to the public. If you want to copy those channels, permissions, descriptions, like that's all free for the taking. And then if you do need help funneling creators into that, targeting the right segments, happy to connect you with some people on our team who can guide you through that setup and maybe do it white glove or a la carte for you if that's still of interest. But yeah, let's move on to a few of the next slides.
Yeah.
This is great. So I think this is something where Navi, I want you to like check me here. I'm pushing the boundaries here with some like I'm maybe taking too much of a data driven approach. But I was doing some blogging recently, and I'm like, how do we anchor some of these systems with data where we can create bonuses and upsides and positive feedback loops for our team to continuously do, right? So I was thinking about things like, hey, let's just track active creator rate. And I think that's something that can be hard to track, but I think there's also ways where you can use things like Zapier or N8N or Gumloop where you're bringing marketing automation to consistently track who engages in your Discord, signs up for events, posts at least once, and integrating that with Reacher and track all these things. So it is possible. And what I'm going to be diving into is like, once you set up your community, you have your SOPs, you do everything that Navi mentioned. How do you verify and validate that success, right? So the biggest thing is, look, if your creators aren't active in your community, you're kind of done. There's no point in having like a ghost town in your Discord, right? So you need to really be tracking if your creators are active or not. And so to illustrate this, right, size doesn't always equal success, right? But let's take two examples here: community A and community B, right? This is very extreme, a little bit different than your 250 minimum example, right? But for me and for a lot of these smaller brands who just need to start and they're a business owner who hasn't hired a community coordinator yet and needs to learn how to do it and how to build the system before delegating it, I'd look at this model. If you can have 50 creators and 70% are active and there's high engagement, consistent momentum, I'm taking this model over 500 creators with 15% of them being active. And the reason is it touches back on a lot of points Navi mentioned. If this creator has a positive first experience, if there's a good first impression during onboarding, when they get into the community, they're going to be highly engaged. They're going to tell other creators, and you're going to grow to that 500 amount without necessarily sacrificing that active engagement rate, right? And you're going to create momentum. And I think it's a lot more important to create organic momentum where people love your community, they feel supported, their GMV is growing, rather than you trying to artificially like pump it up with more numbers. So just one thing around active creators here. And then really, when other creators are engaged, I often find that they can motivate each other. And this is really the power of being in a community rather than doing more siloed marketing activations like SMS campaigns or email newsletters, right? If one creator asks a question and a bunch of other creators have that question, but maybe they're a little nervous to speak up or they just don't have the time to ask a question that day and get the answer, they can see that other creator's question get answered and then take action faster. If some creators are thinking about different content styles and other creators post those different content styles, and then a community coordinator or community manager gives feedback on that content angle they were going to test, that can also help them get started faster because they're seeing positive signals that what they're thinking about testing is going to work. And what we see across the various communities that we audit and collect data from is that just creating these feedback loops between creators here motivates other creators to do even more. And then you can drive that into things like campaigns, contests, challenges, tiered systems where all these creators are engaged and talking to each other. And then these campaigns become a model where you can get a 4-to-1 or 3-to-1 or 5-to-1 output from all the amazing work that your affiliates are doing together. Just by starting with, hey, are these affiliates active in my community, right? That's where this all really starts from.
Yeah.
Anything to add there, Navi? I'm
No,
sharing my
I think this
screen,
is
so I
great.
just can't see right now.
No, yeah, this is exactly what I talked about, right? Like, so this, I think this is great.
Perfect. And then on the inverse side, I always like to take things negative because people listen to the negative more than they listen to the positive, right? If you have low activity in your Discord, there's something extremely wrong. Like if no one is responding and no one is engaging with the announcements you're putting out, no one's showing up to your webinars, no one's asking you any questions on the content they're going to promote, right? This means that you need to start looking at why people are not engaging. Why is GMV dipping? Why is no one talking about your Discord in the creator community, right? So be cognizant of this and track this as a signal. And this could be your wake-up call that you need to start looking at your affiliate community's engagement today. All right. This is something that I've been thinking about a ton. And Navi, I want you to sort of check me here, right? I've been thinking a lot about putting together positive feedback loops for coordinator hires. A lot of agency owners and brand owners are like, hey, do you know a good community manager? Do you know a good account manager? And then usually what happens is these people don't stay for long at these agencies or these brands, and they're not motivated. And I think it's because a lot of them are motivated by, hey, how does my job as a community coordinator reflect in GMV? But really long term, that's sort of a false growth signal. I look at community coordinators similar to how we look at customer success managers at Reacher. You know, how fast are they responding to affiliates? How fast are they actually helping them resolve issues? Are they following up when creators ask something you need to get back? And do they actually resolve it after a day if it's a big problem, right? Are we able to prioritize and tranche out our affiliate community behind the ones that need more help and the ones that are high performers and press them into other ones, right? What sort of systems are we building to scale this to that 250, to the next 250, to the next coordinator, right? So I think building feedback loops, and this is where your business acumen as a business owner can come in, creating bonus and upsides to enable these kinds of behaviors can really drive your community to become 1,000 highly engaged creators rather than, hey, I went viral and created some GMV last month or last week, and then now my community is a ghost town, right? It's usually because people aren't incentivizing coordinators to follow these kinds of behaviors. Navi, I don't know if there's anything similar you're seeing on your end where you've sort of led teams of community managers and coordinators to do things like this.
Yeah, I think this is really important. And I think the respond faster is also like a big one for us. Quick responses build trust and momentum. I think like that's a really big one, especially, and that's where automation also comes in handy. You can't have coordinators on 24/7, but and you don't know when someone's going to engage. So I think it's really important to do that. And then follow up and just building trust and actually doing what you say you're going to do is such a big deal. Like the amount of creators, or even in other communities that I hear where like, a brand promised them something then didn't actually follow through. I think the bar is really low, and it's really like we can get some easy wins here as long as we're doing all of this.
Totally. And like, I think people should just dive into, like, I'm so biased here. People should just dive into technology because like you can create a ClickUp integration into your Discord that feeds into your Slack where you're like you're behind on your deadline to follow up with these creators, and you can templatize an entire automated sequence where you are prioritizing and catering the most like hurt part of your creator community, and you can automate all of that to feed into the area where you're most responsive on Slack, your clients are, right? Bring it back to Slack or one platform and still have it within a project management system and Discord with these automations.
That's right.
It's so doable today, and I don't buy that people don't have enough time. I think we just need to get creative on how we're doing this. Let's skip this slide. Skip this slide. Yeah, so I think one thing I want to do is define active. Like, I think everyone says, let's get them engaged, let's get them active. Here's my definition of active, right? If an affiliate has done all of these, at least one of these things in the last 30 days. And actually, it should probably be a combination of multiple of these things, right? Have they posted content? Have they submitted content drafts for approval if they're working on some sort of retainer-based campaign or sensitive brand with those legal guidelines, right? Have they participated in any campaigns or challenges you have sent out? Have they attended a webinar or a coaching session? And are they even talking to other affiliates in their community, right? If your affiliates aren't doing any of these in the last 30 days, that's a problem. And you need to figure out why. And if this is happening across 20 to 30% of your affiliates, then there's a pattern. And then there is one problem in your Discord or in your system that is being missed here. So try to look at these signals or indicators and figure out like, hey, are creators active? Why aren't they active? What's really missing? How can I get them to improve on each lever rather than saying like, oh, a creator didn't generate $1,000 in GMV last month. Like, my community sucks. You know what I mean? So starting from there, Navi, I'm curious, is there anything else you look at besides this or things you track in your community for active creators?
I think posting content, talking about their content, participating. Yeah, I think all of these this is right.
Totally. All right. Let's keep going. How to calculate it. Some people might want a formula. It's just active creators, which is defined by this, over total number of creators. That's your rate. If you can use automation and stuff to like track this and monitor it, where it's like, here's an example. I know it might sound ridiculous, right? Let's say you're looking at webinar attendance, right? Why don't you collect the number of RSVPs that were yes or no, divide them by your creator community, and then create some sort of automation that feeds into a spreadsheet report that your community coordinators put together. And then you look at how that trends week over week and month over month to see, hey, is this lever of webinars within Discord actually working, right? And you can have that consistently feed into a spreadsheet for every single lever you're pulling and just look at trends and reporting. And for community coordinators and managers who are trying to get buy-in from CEOs and business owners to invest their time into these things, I think showing some sort of report or data where these levers are working in the long run and making sure you're proactively communicating with stakeholders who aren't bought in can be a big win for you guys to get more community in your scope of work for TikTok Shop. So something else to think about here. I'm going to get back to that question in the last few minutes. Everyone who has questions, just drop them in the chat. We're going to leave about 5 to 7 minutes for Q&A, and we'll just rapid fire through them. Cool. Here are some benchmarks I'm throwing out here. They could be completely off. I don't know. This is what I've seen in better communities that are, sort of maintained there. Why track active creator rate? I think we already covered that.
Yep.
Building new systems, great. Here are some examples of like what happens when you just have poor community hygiene, right? Like you want to reduce all the repeat questions, right? And this is just a general rule of thumb for operations. If things keep happening and they keep taking time away, how do we prevent them upstream? I think there's a lot of people who just don't even have FAQs. I think that's like a huge loss, right? If you're not answering frequently asked questions, you don't have a channel, you don't have a place where people can go, you're not telling them about that during onboarding before they come on so they can activate faster, that's a huge loss, right? You want to enable creators to have high agency and not DM every single community coordinator every day with the same questions. If you have someone who's managing 250 creators and they're all asking clarifying questions on everything that you're asking them to do every day, you're not going to get any work done. So You need to build self-service systems where like creators can have high agency and then provide clear onboarding paths, make those easy to find, and then reduce these bottlenecks for these coordinators so they can be incentivized to do things like track engagement, be more data-driven, spend more time actually talking to creators about their day, what's going on, what's not working, right? You want to automate all of these things so they're not getting in the way of your scale. Issue resolution, this is just some like rules of thumb from like a customer success standpoint. I'm just a big believer where if a creator submits a problem, violation, can't get their samples, doesn't get feedback on content, right? If you're not able to actually pay attention to that creator, what's going to happen is they're going to silently disengage from your community. They're not going to tell you, like, hey, you didn't get to my question fast enough. I had a bad experience in your Discord, so I'm leaving. Like, they're going to just slowly disengage, right? So, what you want to do with your team is anchor them to some sort of baseline, right? And I think what a lot of people say to their community coordinators, and what I'm seeing is respond to creator issues fast. But like across hundreds of creators with all kinds of issues, like how can we actually track and verify that this is being done, right? How many issues are actually being solved? And again, if you have a channel where people are coming to you with your issues, you can use automation and pull in workflows where you're taking the total number of count of those issues, integrating them with the project management system, and then tracking when that status changes and pulling it into a spreadsheet where you're not even doing any of the work, right? So I would create a channel where people can escalate this and use some sort of automation where you're just taking all the issues that have been resolved and you're tracking, hey, how long has this ticket been out there? Has this actually been resolved? You know, how close are we to 100% of resolving all our issues? If not, why was it low this month? Why was it higher this month? What was working? How do we lean more into that? Maybe there was something happening with a product out of stock, you know? How can we, if we see multiple people submitting the same issues in that channel, how can we go and create an announcement to more affiliates and reduce those tickets upstream, right? So other things to think about in terms of how you're able to solve issues and give creators that psychological safety that when they're in your community, you are laser focused on solving their issues, providing them a place to go, and just creating a positive experience for them.
Yep.
I'm just gonna leave the rest of the time for Q&A, but Navi put together this amazing community hygiene, outreach hygiene, sampling hygiene, communication hygiene, content hygiene. Like there's all these checklists here that you guys can use to diagnose if things are actually working well in your community or not, and then put together like, hey, is my community on the right track? Is this actually going well? What can I do today? If there is a problem, what kind of job description do I need to create and training materials do I need to create for my community coordinator hire tomorrow? And then, of course, this entire slide deck, everything is completely free. You guys can have it all. DM me, and this time I will make sure the recording gets up faster. I think like last time I had like 15 podcasts backlogged for one video editor who's such a trooper, and she puts all this work together and does it all. So that was my bad, and now I don't have 15 podcasts backlogged, so we'll get that recording up faster for you guys this time. Everyone, hope you enjoyed it. Just drop all your questions in the chat right now. I'm going to just stop sharing my screen here, and I want to use this 5 minutes now for anyone to just get any questions they have answered on anything we just presented. I know it was a lot. Thanks so much for hanging in there. Let's see. Anna, for retainer-based relationships, is it possible to know what is the usual setup? Are you referring to Navi's Discord, or are you referring to how she structures retainer-based relationships? How the contracts are done? I think maybe just some clarity on that, Anna, could be just a bit helpful because that's a whole marketing service there. What would be some steps to re-engage a ghost town in Discord? Navi, do you want to, have you ever
I think
jumped in with the brand there?
it's hard. So it's hard. You can't go into Discord and send a bunch of messages or try to communicate because I have Discords like that and I just never check. I have a bunch of notifications from them. I just never check them. So if you are doing it that way, you need to reach out to those creators where you initially met them, whether that was via email, whether that was via DM, whether, wherever it is, that's how you need to re-engage. You can't re-engage inside of Discord. So you need to I would say you would need to re-engage the creators you already have, and then you would need to start new engagement for creators that you could put in there now that you're actually ready. So it isn't an end all. Like you can't, it's not like, oh, now you can never use that Discord community again, but you kind of have to do the legwork again for re-engaging those creators in the spaces that you met them. Do you have any thoughts there, Sohan?
I'm wondering if you should just like start over and do it the right way.
I mean, you could essentially start over, but you also, I think, you probably did the work in the beginning to engage those creators, and now they have a bad taste in their mouth. So the least you should do is reach out to them and let them know what happened, why it happened, and you're re-inviting them into a community that will be much better, because you probably invited
Yes.
at least minimum a couple hundred people in there. You know what I mean? You want to make sure that they know.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think, this might be like the hacky way of looking at it. I think Navi's bringing much more practical, like humanistic way of looking at it here too. Figure out what went wrong, how they're feeling. For me, I was getting straight to like, yo, just rebrand your Discord
Sounds
with a
like burn
different
it
name.
down and rebuild it.
Burn it down, change the color of the Discord logo from red to blue, and then do the exact same thing with a better onboarding. Like, I think like people's first impressions like don't last that long, and I think you could try to retarget everyone in there and invite them, and then do it the right way. I think there's like trade-offs between like how much time am I going to take,
That's true.
revitalizing this ghost Discord versus just starting anew and doing it
Yep.
the right way. Okay, and I got back. How's the structure with retainer-based relationships? Is it based on the number of videos per month with GMV targets in general? I can take this one. We covered this in a previous Discord. So what Navi did really well for her collective is she starts with awareness first, and then she levers into awareness plus engagement, and then that naturally drives the legwork for GMV, right? I think just starting with GMV at the beginning can alienate, discourage creators. I think naturally, as creators get closer to hitting their goal, they get more motivated, right? There's a psychological term called the goal gradient effect, which I love talking about because I think that's like the thesis of all TikTok Shop. I mean, even looking at the data in Reacher, like 1.6% of creators make like what, over $100 or something like that.
Hmm.
So I mean, like if you set a target like GMV, you're sort of alienating against like over 97, 98% of creators. And for me, I want to figure out a way where I can get awareness, I can get volume, and then I can naturally get engagement, and then I can teach them how to get GMV because it is still new and people are figuring it out. Are
Yeah.
both of your Discord servers available to join and explore, or are they paid or for creators only? So Navi's Discord, she manages an agency for her brands. I don't think she wants any people that aren't her brands,
That's
and
true.
a part of her agency in there. I have a Discord template. It's like kind of a ghost town because all it is like it's full of people who want to see how a Discord is structured. So it's not like creators and things like that. But I think, Bryant, if you want to reach out after and get an invite link to the Reacher Discord where we use that to guide other brands on how to do their channel setup, totally feel free to just jump in. A lot of these Discords are public. I would just create a TikTok Shop account as an affiliate and then just go join some brands Discords. Buy
Yeah.
$100 in sales or $1,000 in sales. You will get 1,000 Reacher invites, probably within the next week or so, and get invited to all these Discords. So don't even
That's
worry
how I
about
do
that.
it,
Very
Sohan.
easy to get in there.
I'm a creator now
Really?
officially. I'm a TikTok Shop creator officially. I wanted to see how the other end looked. So I finally
Of
just
course.
joined. Yeah. So it's been great.
It's natural. It's one of the most important parts of the ecosystem is like who are you reaching out to and engaging?
Yeah.
What's their experience like? Um, okay, amazing webinar. Thank you, SNNS. And would like to take a look at the Discord as well. For sure, reach out and I'll hook you up there. Happy to also set you on a call with our team to kind of take a look at what you're doing there with your affiliates. We have 5 accounts coming up on TikTok Shop, but not there yet. Awesome. Sounds good. Let's keep the conversations going, everyone. Our LinkedIn channels are open. Feel free to just send us a DM. I'll send out the decks and recordings. And thanks so much for jumping on, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.